Hey guys, Nix here. So I've watched a couple videos in the last couple days, and I want to make a kind of two-part response video, which will likely turn into me rambling for a few minutes, so be prepared to bear with me. It's another lovely rainy day here in Northern California, at least it is north of the Bay Area. It's pretty awful, though we have a momentary lull here. It's still, yeah, we have a momentary lull, but it's still pretty much flooded all the way down the bottom of my driveway and everywhere, so, wish us luck, we don't have to sandbag the house. Anyhow, so I just watched TLSlayer, video entitled The Work of the Devil. TL, you're asking a very valid question, and I want to answer it thusly. I mean, TLSlayer asks kind of a couple questions, a couple directed towards people who are calling atheists the work of the devil, and asking them basically, like, aren't you pretty much resorting to childish name-calling and just, well, you're the work of the devil, you're here to blaspheme and just piss us off on purpose. Okay, well, some of us are. But anyway, question number two is to the effect of, do they really think that we would do that? Like, even if we were actively trying to, if we thought that they were right, they were going for, spiritual enlightenment and a never-ending eternity of bliss, would we really try to deny them that? So, the questions are valid, but they beg a further question, which is the whole idea of rationalizing it by believing what you're talking about. They believe in the devil, and therefore have a foundational point from which to begin and say that we are the work of the devil. Whether we're doing it on purpose, our actions are informed by the will of Satan. Right? We're the worldly interfering with their pursuit of the heavenly kingdom. So, the problem here is the foundational stone, that foundation stone being that Satan exists. So if you don't believe that Satan exists, then obviously you can't make heads or tails of their rationale, because it starts on Satan existing, and we don't believe Satan exists, you and I. I mean, unless I'm sorely mistaken with you. So yeah, I mean, it ends up being, it all comes back to the whole faith argument. If you can't defeat the, well, I have faith argument, which you cannot until the person is ready to accept an argument to the contrary, then you're never going to be able to argue rationally on some of the following topics. You're going to hell. The appropriate question is not, well, why, sir, am I going to hell? It's, you really believe that hell exists? I mean, they can wax eloquent about why you're going to hell and give you very, very eloquently phrased, spiritually couched statements on, or scripturally couched statements on why you're going to hell specifically, and the perfectly rational justification in their mind. The problem is, you can't follow the rationale because none of it is real. So, yeah, I guess that would be my answer to you, buddy. It's like, yes, they are being childish, but they have the persecution complex. Not all of them. Don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not trying to cast a blanket statement over all apologists or all Christians or anybody here, but as we have seen many times here on YouTube, there are a number of people, and I just won't name names. There's one that comes to mind, but we're all trying to pretend that he's really gone for good, right? But they will spout vitriol and tell us how worthless we are as human beings, and offer what they think is assistive talk here. They're trying to let you know of your miserable condition. But then when you try to tell them that what they're doing, in your opinion, is a delusion and here's the reasons why, well, then you're persecuting them. So, hell, they want to have it both ways. We only want to have it the way that is obvious in front of us. But you can't, I mean, they're not setting their first foot on the same path as you. So when they reach their conclusion, and they look back at the path and it makes perfect sense to them, you look back and you see a tangle of fucking thorns. You're like, how the hell did you get there? So here's a wonderfully rare sight. There's Samantha. There's Piper. How about that, huh? Don't usually see these girls so calmly in front of each other like that. Of course, now that I'm speaking, Piper's waking up. But there's a dose of cuteness for you, huh? Two girls finally getting along a little better, though if Piper were a foot closer, she'd still get whacked in the face. So, the American government. I watched Vogter's video talking about his government over there, and one of the deciding points he was mentioning that are very different between the two is how they are honestly compartmentalized into smaller groups. Now, of course, we here in America have all our departments. You have the Department of Homeland Security all the way down to the Department of Agriculture and blah, blah, blah. And it goes down to the state level as well as even the county level. When we do jobs, we have to have licenses through the local Department of County Ag. Yeah, so the problem is here, and I've tried a couple of takes on this already, and they turned into like 15-minute rants. So I'm going to try to keep this concise and say that, and I'm not coming from an expert's point of view here. I am not an expert analyst of the governmental system, but ours claims to be very similar. It does. It claims to have all of these independent bureaus and departments working independently, basically checking and balancing each other, as the phrase goes. Checks and balance are supposed to be the linchpin of our government, our democracy. Now, we have things like the Electoral College and superdelegates, proving that we are not, in fact, living in a representative democracy in the truest sense of the words. We're living in a republic. And if everything worked the way it was supposed to work, our government would largely resemble yours, Vogter, I would say. You say you have different governors, mayors, as it were, for different departments, different areas. Well, we have a similar thing. Of course, we have much larger area to cover as well. Needs to be considered, but our government doesn't actually work the way it claims to work anymore. It doesn't. The checks and balances have failed to a large extent. Most of the people in places of power have worked for one of the large companies they are supposed to be regulating. So the government is supposed to be our defense against the bloodthirsty corporations, but almost everybody in government has links to big corporations, or I should say everybody at the top of government does. So the problem is that our system, while purporting to be very similar to yours, is in fact broken. And as you say, it's the lobbyists that make the difference. Lobbyists in our country are allowed to get away with anything. Political murder, they really, really are, and it's just basically protected. Or if it is prosecuted, it's prosecuted at the very end of the extreme need, and then they just throw somebody under the bus and it's pretty much over with. They get back to business as usual. Your lobbyists, you say, would be effectively laughed out of court, so to speak, if they tried to pull the shit ours do. But ours get away with it. Now, does that sound like what a representative democracy would let happen? No. Because our system, while claiming to have these rules, has been so convoluted to the point where, in my opinion, it is the business of a politician, it is the business of a businessman to find the loopholes in the rules to cheat the system. And everyone looks on and admires him. It says, wow, he's really smart. Like, the first guy to start outsourcing, let's say, and I know there's no first guy who started outsourcing, but the first guy who did that, all of their businessmen gritted their teeth and went, God damn it, I wish I thought of that first. Why? Because it puts more money in their pocket, not because it's better for everyone else. And they are allowed to get away with it, by and large. So what's the problem with the American system? I don't know, man. People much smarter than me need hours and hours to expound upon this topic, and I'm not claiming to be some sort of pundit that should be listened to. But it does seem to me that the proverbially simple task of enforcing the rules and regulations that are already in place would go a long way towards fixing the large amount of the problems that we have. Because the simple fact is that, as of now, the rules and regulations are not enforced. They're just plain not. You hire an expensive enough lawyer, you can get away with almost anything. In fact, you can get away with anything. I mean, we all see it on the news on a daily basis. I mean, at least over here, we see it every day about this politician or that politician who swindled $1 bazillion and then gets a slap on the wrist for it, or does 6 months with a frickin' ankle bracelet. I mean, yeah. Enforce the rules that are already here, our government would resemble yours much more closely. I think that's my short take on what's wrong with the American government. So, until next time, Nick's out.